My Acorns portfolio is way down, which led me to wonder, how do they even come up with these portfolios in the first place? Like, why are they picking such terrible things that are losing me so much money? Did Acorns just hire some consultant to do it for them? Are they copying some well-known strategy? How do we know how we should be investing? Let's find out why our money is being invested this way, and let's get a little bit nerdy. Also in the process, I'll explain how investing risk is both similar to knitting and to free solo rock climbing. So stay tuned for that. To understand how Acorns invests the billions of dollars it manages, we need to get to know a guy named Harry. This is Harry. Don't worry, he didn't look familiar to me either. I'd never heard of Harry Markowitz, but he's responsible for the way that we all now think about investing and for the way Acorns invests. Little Harry was born in 1927, just before the Great Depression. It was the Roaring '20s, and the Industrial Revolution that had started in the 1870s was making the average American family more successful, comfortable, and optimistic than ever before. People took that excess money and optimism and they shoveled it into the stock market, and for a while they were rewarded for it. Between 1920 and 1929, new fortunes were made every year as the stock market went on an absolute rampage. It just climbed higher and higher, and in those 9 years, between 1920 and 1929, it more than tripled in value. That level of success lulled people into a false sense of security, though. Does that sound familiar? Like recent years here lately? They not only invested the money they had, but they took out huge margin loans, putting in as little as 10% down and borrowing the rest to inflate their investments like a balloon ready to pop.
But they were all of them deceived, for another stock market was made.
One that did not perpetually increase in value like the one they knew and loved. One that could not withstand the infinite speculation. That was my Lord of the Rings spoof. When Harry was 2, the stock market began its historic collapse into the Great Depression. Little did he know...
Did you say little did he know? I've written papers on little did he know.
A few decades later, he would be getting a Nobel Prize for totally redefining how people invest. From an early age, he was brainy and inquisitive, and he loved reading books by great thinkers and philosophers. Harry took his infatuation with philosophy and the basic structure of how you do philosophy and directed that towards economics and the stock market in particular, and in doing that, he changed the world. Harry realized to get a better sense of what's worth investing in, we have to include risk in our thinking. He realized that even if a single stock is giving us all the right vibes right now, investing all of our money in one company is hugely risky. And Harry said, that's sketchy, bro. By looking at the risk of the companies all together that you'd invest in a whole portfolio and analyzing that better than anyone before him, Harry made history and he caught the attention of Acorns. Based on Harry's theory, which has now been named modern portfolio theory, Acorns is able to pick an accurate mix of investments to match up with how much risk you actually want to take. That kind of a goal to do the kind of risk matchmaking that like suits you and how you want to live your life might seem kind of obvious now, but before Harry here, it wasn't. The goal is to take the level of risk that you can live with and then maximize the amount of money that you can make within those limits. We'd be so mad at Acorns if they weren't as precise as they are. Because what if they said something like, oh, you don't want a lot of risk? Fine, just keep all your money in cash in a savings account. Well, that leaves huge gains on the table compared to a well-made conservative portfolio. We wouldn't invest with them. It'd be silly. It's a waste of time. And then it's equally imprecise to say, oh, well, if you're okay with a lot of risk, then just toss all your money into 1 or 2 or 3 stocks. That also will leave a lot of extra gains on the table long term because odds are you've taken too much risk and it's actually going to limit your profits because one of those 3 companies is going to go down. So in that case, we'd be better off with an aggressive portfolio that's still hungry for gains, but severely limits the chances that you lose all your money. If you are really that risky, like risk at all costs, you just go to Vegas and throw all your life savings into a game of roulette. Just pick a number, toss the ball in there, and either win big or lose it all. But 99.999% of us aren't that risky because that's crazy. That's just foolish gambling. By the way, your odds of losing in that roulette example are about 97.4%. There's 2 ways that Acorns uses Harry's modern portfolio theory. The first way is by diversifying everybody big time. And all that means is that no one with Acorns invests into a few single stocks, or at least we can't until they roll out that single stock trading feature that was promised earlier this year. Still not out, we're still waiting. And here's a video all about that. But every single portfolio within Acorns forces us into hundreds or thousands of different companies or investments. That's a good thing. The second way Acorns uses MPT, modern portfolio theory, Harry's theory, is by matching up the amount of risk that you say you want with investments that should help you make as much money as possible while staying within that boundary. If that whole concept seems really unclear and you've been waiting for me to explain it with with an analogy that's silly but still makes sense? That's happening right now. Investing this way that's based on your risk tolerance is like picking a hobby. The activity you choose is like what you invest in. It has to be fun and it has to be interesting, but if it's too risky for you, it's no longer fun. It does have kind of a cap on it because the hobbies that are super safe aren't going to be as interesting, they're not going to be as fun to tell stories about, but the interesting level is only half the equation. They've got to be fun for you. Too much or too little risk and you lose the fun. For example, a super low risk hobby would be like knitting or sitting at home and crocheting. Medium low risk would be like taking a run on a busy sidewalk. A medium risk hobby is like auto racing. Medium high risk would be long distance open water swimming in shark infested waters. No guarantees of getting bit, but that's pretty risky. And high risk hobby would be free solo rock climbing, some kind of wild multi-pitch face like Alex Honnold does. If you're okay with the kind of risk and the excitement and the interestingness that comes along with free solo rock climbing, you won't be happy with sitting at home and knitting. You require more risk to have fun and be interesting and be engaged. Similarly, the investor who wants more gains, more interesting, more fun, has to be okay with more risk. And a low risk person who isn't willing to bleed even a little bit has to reckon with the fact that their stories at a party when meeting someone new will be relatively dull. I knitted some mittens. I made my cat a scarf. I made another hat. Like, the end. That's it. And that's the right choice for them. Modern portfolio theory matches us up with the risk that we're okay living with, and that doesn't stress us out. And it makes sure that we're covering all the bases we can to make as much money as possible in the meantime. Now, is modern portfolio theory perfect? Does Harry account for every possible scenario in the stock market and in the economy? No, it's not even close. But it's a darn good start to investing, and the odds are good that we probably won't need anything more sophisticated than that, really, like ever. And in doing research, I learned that the Harry Markowitz is actually an investment committee advisor for Acorns. Right now, to this day. They got the GOAT. That's pretty amazing. The secret comment section today is to list your hobby and its risk level. Are you more of a naked windsurfer or a Dungeons and Dragons figurine painter? Put it in the comments. And it's always nice to be able to increase the amount of money that you're able to invest in Acorns or elsewhere, and passive income can really help with that because you're not actively having to work for it. But there's a 3-part balancing act that comes along with all kinds of passive income, and you got to know about that before you proceed with that kind of goal. So you need to watch this video next because I broke that down for you.